Right, so yesterday we discussed the different shiurim, the shiur, whether the eggs got smaller, they didn't get smaller, and how that translates into the standard shiurim of today. We started with the idea of what the Gemara says. We started with what the Gemara says that basically the size of Rabbi is 10.8 square etzbois. We discussed what the etzbois are, the different shiurim, if it's 2 or 2.4, and basically what the shiur Rabbi is if the eggs got bigger. If the eggs got smaller, they didn't get smaller. And in short, what we said yesterday was that according to the Chazon Ish, the Noida B'Yehuda, which is really based on the Noida B'Yehuda, the Revi'is is really 150 milliliters, cubic centimeters. And according to the smaller shiur, which after what we discussed yesterday, that which Reb Chaim Noah based his shiur on, that the dirham is 3.2, is really, even that is incorrect, because we said that we have coins from the time of the Rambam in Egypt that they were either between 2.8 and 3, but 3.04, but nothing was 3.2. And when you compare it to what we said yesterday with the shiur that the Rambam himself gives about dinarim, and we have thousands of dinarim, so we basically know what the shiur of the dirham is when we compare it to the dinar, and therefore we know that the shiur of the dirham is 2.82, 2.83. And therefore, the shiur of Revi'is is 75 milliliters, which makes the egg 50 milliliters. Now, why is all of that so important to us? Because tonight we're going to talk about the kazayis. How much is a kazayis? And of course, the most important thing is how does that translate into what we're going to try to show? How much matzah do we need to eat for the first kazayis, koirech, afikoimon? How much do we need to eat? All right, so with that we'll start. Now, how much is a kazayis? How much is a kazayis? Does it have really a shiur in regards to the egg or not? So before we get to what the majority of the poskim talk about, whether the egg is whether the kazayis is a half an egg or a third of an egg, which they're talking about, we just would like to bring the other Rishonim, what they're saying, and then we'll come back to the other standard shitas. We'll start with the Tshuvas HaGeonim. The Geonim, Tshuvas HaGeonim, Siman Reish Samach Ches, if you want to look it up. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically, the last line of the Tshuvas HaGeonim is Machad etnana vido oimer ela akol lefi daito shoroya. He said, whatever, it's not exact, it doesn't have to be, there's nothing, no way of making it 100% exact. Fi daito shoroya. What does daito shoroya l'chayra mean? The famous words that all the poskim are talking about. What it looks like. What looks like? Chayra and olive. What else are you talking about? If you daito shoroya. If we're talking about what an egg, and if it's a third or a half, with the shell, without the shell, what have to do with daito shoroya? So the chayra, he's saying that the shiur of a kazayis is according to what you see. Now, the Rashi in Menachos, Tafayin Heyom with Beis, over there it says that you take the mincha, you fold it over twice, and then 4, and then it comes out that there are 16, you folded it over 16 times, and you break it up into 16 parts, and each part still has a kazayas in it. Now, how big is this challah that we're talking about? We're talking about that the isaroin, you took an isaroin, which we spoke about yesterday, it's 43.2 eggs of flour, and you made out of that 10 challahs, which means that how much is each challah? Not very difficult math. Each challah is 4.32 eggs, not more than 4.32 eggs. So you cut it up into 16 pieces, and each piece is going to still have a kazayas. So simple mathematics means that it can't be that a kazayas is more than a quarter of an egg.
Kazayas is volume.
What are you talking about volume?
Puff up a little bit.
What?
Flour would be relatively condensed. Dough might puff up a little bit.
Okay, it could be a little bit, but the Rashba says, the lashon of the Rashba is, yesh bechaticha eser revi'iyos shein 15 beitzim sharei harbe shein harbe mishishim zeisim. He says 15 eggs is more than 60 zeisim. Again, you see that it can't be more than a quarter of an egg. The Ritva says that in a groigeres there are kama zeisim. Just before talking about when somebody asks for a few cups of water, right? It doesn't mean 2, it maybe means 3, usually. Kama doesn't mean 2, it means at least 3. And it says a groigeres has kama zeisim, right? So it has to be at least 3, and the Ritva holds, like the Rambam, that a groigeres is a third of an egg. So it can't be more than a ninth of an egg, a zayis. That was the Ritva. This is a ksav yad from the Beis Medrash of the Maram Rutenberg. Maram Rutenberg was the Rabbi of the Rosh. He says, "V'liya koisev enoi kosher, ki re'isi zeisim be'eretz Yisrael." Finally, Rishonim really was like a find, a real find. He found it. Right? Ki re'isi zeisim be'eretz Yisrael b'Yushalayim, afilu shisha einam gedolim kibetza. He says it's less than a sixth of an egg. Now, the Shulchan Aruch in Orach Chaim, in Hilchos Pesach, what we're talking about, Shulchan Aruch writes, this Tov Ayin Hey Sif Aleph. Now, we know that we have 3 matzahs, we break the middle matzah, and then we do Lechem Mishnah, basically, and you're supposed to be eating a kezayis from the matzah, which is the Lechem Mishnah, and you're supposed to be eating a kezayis from the Lechem Oini. So, Mechaber says, Yivtza mehashlema ha'elyoina, take off a piece from the top matzah, umeaprusa, take a little bit off, mishtem yachad v'yitbeleim b'melach, take a piece from the top and a piece from the bottom, the middle one, right? Dip it in melach, v'yoichlem b'haseba b'yachad, kezayis mikol echad. He wants you to swallow 2 kezaysim of matzah at once. He says, "V'im einu yochel lechol kishnei zaysim biyachad." I guess if you're not oig melech haboshon, right? Yochel shel hamoitzi tchila v'achar kach shel achilas matzah. But lichatchila, he wants you to swallow two matzos together.
It also just means that one act of eating, I have the whole thing up.
No.
I'm not swallowing. Yochel biyachad, I'm eating it together. In one
What does it
act of
mean?
eating.
No. That's not what he says. He says, if you can't do it, if it's one act of eating, just continue eating.
Maybe because is very hard and I only have 2 minutes. Maybe I have 9 minutes. But if I only have 2
He's
minutes,
telling you, so what if you only have 2 minutes?
So if I only have 2 minutes for one mice eating, so the whole kazais, maybe that's difficult. If I had 4
No, but
minutes
he's,
for each
no,
one.
that's not what he's telling you. He's telling you, he's telling you should, if you can't,
If it's one mice eating, so I have one shear of this man. If it's 2 mice, then maybe I have 2 shiurim. So I could have, in 4 minutes, I could eat much more than I could in 2 minutes. Again, depending on how long
so
this process.
what are you trying to say?
Better if you would have 2 of them together and you eat it in the course of 2 minutes. But if you
No,
can't do
he's
that,
not talking about the time. He's saying we eat them at once. He's not telling you in the shiur of time of the eating of K'dei Achilas Pras. He didn't even talk about that. He says, eat them at once. Right? So, I mean, obviously, whatever the shiur, the Svardim had soft matzahs, right? So it was a little bit easier to swallow. But whatever it is, if the shiur is like bigger shiurim, imagine what you're going to get to. If you had to swallow, don't forget, if according to the Chazon Ish, an egg is double this size. Double this size is an egg. So you have to swallow, if it's, let's say, a half of an egg, he wants you to swallow 2 of these at once. I challenge anybody. It's impossible, right? Try to swallow 2 of these at once. Oh, now, that's just a little bit to see the Rishonim, what the Rishonim are saying. Now, what people don't know, I can't blame them, because really the Stipler, who wrote the Shiur in Shul Torah, when he writes the Shiur Kazayis, he writes it l'chumer, which, again, we spoke about this last night, which we'll try to do it tonight. Last night we didn't have time to do it. We want to see how much an egg is, displacement of an egg. So here, we'll put this over here, put this on, okay, it's on 0. Oh no, sorry. We're going to need this. Okay, more water. Just for the, these cups, if I'm not mistaken here, you can even put this like this. Want to weigh it, just you see that the cup is 180 on the, you guys will have to believe me, right? 180, right? 180 milliliters. I already went over the top a little bit, but if you would be flat, it would be 180 milliliters. Okay, with the plates underneath, we're already up to 200. Now we're going to try our best to add a drop of water because otherwise we won't know the true displacement of the egg. Okay, I don't want to do any more because so we're up to 201. I splashed a little bit, but okay, basically we're up to 260. So basically the displacement of the egg was 60. Now, that's the egg with the shell.
The egg was 60 grams.
60 grams, yeah. Okay. Now.
How did this displace Rabbi? I don't understand. Why didn't the Rav just put the egg on the...
Do the displacement and then measure the water that's been displaced?
Right. Why didn't the Rav just put the egg on the scale?
I don't know what the weight is. How do I know? What is? We want to know volume. We don't want to know.
Right. The way to do the volume is make it 0 with just the plate empty. And then
But I did the same way. We added.
No. The plate. It's because we only want the water. We don't want the weight of the egg. That thing was measuring the weight of the egg. We just want the plate empty.
I did displacement.
I understand, but it's not. All you want to measure is the water that is displaced.
Exactly. That's all I measured.
No, because there was still a cup. There was an egg there.
There was an egg there.
It was the water plus the egg. It was maybe.
Ah, that's what you mean.
Yeah,
Okay.
So empty the bowl into the cup.
Yeah, that's what I was confused with.
Then put just the empty plate and tar it. Get it to 0.
Okay, we're on 0. We're on 0.
Okay, so now we need to put one of the cups. Get back same sort of situation.
Yeah, we just want
Fill up the cup. Yeah. Then put the egg in slowly.
But first I have to fill it up to the top.
Right.
Okay, we're at 181. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
We'll put it in slowly. It's not so easy.
Now lift the cup out. Take out the cup and the egg. That's the displacement.
Correct. 48. Okay. Now I decided to jump to 51. So that's what we said. The standard, right? 50. It's jumping between 50 and 51. We said that the standard egg is around 50.
It's a medium egg?
I don't know. It's an egg from the kitchen. Right?
I think they get largest.
Now, that's.
It's exactly 50.
We'll do our best over here. That was with the shell. It's not so easy to do. It's not 100% perfect. Peel. Empty that out. Thank you. Now we're going to do the egg without the shell. Again, it's not perfect because you see over here it has a little bit indentation in it.
Why would that change?
Because theoretically it might be that another egg, standard egg, might be in volume a little bit bigger, right? And I also...
No? I mean, there is an average of eggs, meaning...
We're talking about a cooked egg.
No, but just the shape. It's the same. Nothing
Thank
came
you.
out when it cooked.
Okay, so again, we'll put this on 0. And we'll fill this up with water. So now, here. Now I'm going to put the egg in. Now we're at 184. Put the egg in.
Let me take out the cup.
No good. It's 50. Something went wrong. I don't know. But that's the question of how much you guys can play around with it. The question is, how much do we take off for the shell? Why do we say why do we talk about taking off the shell? Because the Shulchan Aruch says, he brings 2 shittas. How big is a kezayis? Right? Is a kezayis a half of an egg or a third of an egg? So we're going to say that it's a half of an egg. We also want to know if it's a half an egg with the shell or without the shell. So if we're going to say, here we have a few shittas of how much you take off for the shell. It happens to be that the shita of the Gra is that a half of the egg is really, the sheet of a half of an egg is the half of an egg without the shell. And that equals a third of an egg with the shell. So the Gra is really saying there's really no difference between the two shitas. Half of an egg is half the egg without the shell. And the third of the egg is with the shell. So basically it means that the shiur of a kazais is 17 cc if we're going 17 milliliters with an egg of 50. If you're going with the egg of 100, so then it'd be double, 34. Maximum. But even the Chazon Ish, this is what we wanted to get to. The Chazon Ish, for one of the reasons we spoke about yesterday, the Chazon Ish was saying that even by a Sa'ira, he wanted to say that the Shiur opinion of Ben was given over in Sa'irim, and therefore we go according to what the Sa'irim of today are. If you're going with that, then definitely the Shiur of a Kazayis is what the Kazayis of today is. And that's what the Chazon Ish really says. And the Stipler in Brachos, in Kilos Yankif, also says that the Shiur of a Kazayis is Zay Shel Zmanenu. So contrary to popular belief, and it's really not so much popular belief, it's really what the Stipler really writes in Shiur and Shul Torah. He writes that we're going to take off, he says you take off a tenth for the shell. There are really basically 4 shitas how much you take off for the shell. We said that according to 5 shitas. According to the Gra, you're taking off a third. So therefore, an egg which is 50, you take off a third, you're left with 33. Half of that is 17. So that's why a third of an egg equals a half of an egg. So according to the Gra, you take off a third. According to Reb Chaim Noah, you take off a 15th of the egg. He brings down that the doctors, we don't really care so much about doctors, I don't know why it's called doctors, but that's what his notion is, Roifim, say that it's a 20th of the egg. There are those that say you take off a 10th, and then the Kaf HaChaim brings down a quarter. Basically, the sheet is how much you take off. So if you're taking off, let's take off, just for argument's sake, you're taking off a 10th. So if the egg is 100, you take off a 10th for the shell. If we're going to say that it's half of an egg without the shell, so then it's going to be 45, and that's what the Stipler writes, that the shiur is 45. That's what he writes in Shiur and Shul Torah. But Halacha L'Maisa, he writes not like that. He writes that really it's an egg Zay Shel Zmanenu, whatever the standard olive is, and that's that was the shita of the Chazon Ish. So even though the Chazon Ish, when you're talking about a revius, maybe has a very big shiur, maybe has a shiur of 150, but he himself held that the Kazais is Zay Shel Zmanenu. And the Stipler also held like that. It's basically Me'ikar Adin Zay Shel Zmanenu. They were only machmer. The Chazon Ish was machmer because it's very difficult to decide what a Kazai Shel Zmanenu is. Because maybe there are big olives. So therefore, even Reb Chaim Kanievsky writes that you can make a bury nefashos on 17 cc. In other words, he's saying kazai is l'chumra. It's only l'chumra, right? Maybe chashash brach levatala, but he's saying l'chumra, and he's you should try to eat 17 cc for kazais. If you look at Rabbi Bodner's famous Sefer Kazais, where he has pictures of everything, over there, you read it well. He asked Reb Chaim for haskama to his Sefer, which he writes that he's going that the Zayis is 29 cc, 28.8, because he was still going with the old Shiur of Reb Chaim Noah. And he goes back and forth, and he tries to get Reb Chaim to be machmir. And Reb Chaim, read the haskama and what went on between him and Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim stood his ground and said 17. That's what Reb Chaim held. That is for sure kezayis, but again, it's lechumra, because maybe there is a zayis that's bigger. But me'ikar adin, really, a zayis is zayis shel zmanenu. The standard zayis shel zmanenu is really 5 cc. It's a famous that the Avnei Nezer, the famous Sochat Shovel, they once asked him, how big is a zayis? And he showed them the end of his finger. He says, that size, the end, like that's the size of a zayis. The Reb Chaim Volozhiner, they asked him, what is the shiur of a kezayis? He said, 1/3 of a spoon. So we're going to, not a teaspoon, say a bigger spoon, 1/3 of a spoon. That's a kezayis. Now, of course, if anybody wants to be machmir, and he wants to eat the biggest shiur, which the biggest shiur possible, theoretically would be 50 cc. If you take all the chumras together, if you say, because really the Mishnah Berurah paskins, a kezayis lechumra is half of an egg with the shell. Even though almost all the poskim argue, and that they say a kezayis is even according to the chumra, that it's a half of an egg, it's a half of an egg without the shell. Mishnah Berurah says half of an egg with the shell. So the biggest chumra you could want to do is maybe 50 cc. That's not 50 grams, 50 cc. But again, we said that it basically can't be, because that's the size of an egg, and you can't swallow 2 eggs at once. And
would that be a chumrah that causes you?
What?
Would that be a chumrah that causes a kula?
Definitely.
I mean, to be machmir on the 50, so I'm for sure not going to eat it. Vasachas.
You can't eat bavasachas, and the main thing that we're worried about is, unfortunately, a famous story that happened in Al-Ad not too many years ago. An avrech tried to swallow whatever he held was a kezayis, and since it says lechatchila in Halacha that you should swallow it at once. What?
Swallow is
Liv loa. Yeah, but there are poskim that do say you should try to swallow it at once. Lechatchila. He tried to do that, and he choked to death. The famous story that happened not that long ago. And anyways, we all have people, have older people who can't eat so much, and we all have maybe relatives who aren't, so Haredi, maybe we'll say. They're not out to do every chum in the book. We have those people who are come. It's maybe their first seder. So you're going to try to tell these people, these unbelievably big shiurim, they're going to think you're crazy, and they're not going to do it. So we want, and we always try for these type of people, we need to know what's me'ikar adin and what's the chumrah, in order to be able to tell them, okay, you can, they might even still be mechal Shabbos. So we want to know, what do I have to tell them? Well, how much do they have to eat? Without driving them crazy. So you can definitely rely for them on the shiur of kezayis shel zmanenu. Give them 5 to 8 cc, which soon will show how much that is. But just getting back to the stipler, right? Rav Dunner from Bnei Brak, he asked the stipler, Halacha l'maisa, he asked him, maybe the Rav can tell me exactly how much matzah I need to eat. And he gave him a piece of matzah. And he showed it to him, and he showed him how much it is. And Rav Durner was smart enough to save that piece of matzah. And we still have pictures of it, of how big that matzah was. Hopefully I'll be able to find it here. Where is it? Excuse me, I'm sorry for this. He has the picture here a few times, I think. Here it is. Okay, this is the picture. Right? Here's the picture. Right? He still has the matzah. It's basically 10 centimeters. Right? I mean, obviously you can't. This is the picture is just showing you that they still have the matzah, and it's basically 10 centimeters. Yeah.
10 square centimeters?
In other words, basically, yeah, it's like, which we're going to explain. The shiur of the standard kilo of machine matzah. We'll talk about machine matzah. I don't have here any hand matzah. We'll talk about the hand matzah soon. But the standard machine matzah, the kilo, the way they do it is they don't weigh the matzahs before they put them in the box. It basically works, the standard company, they put 16 in one bag and a 16 in another bag, 16 matzahs. So it comes out, you basically have 32 matzahs in a kilo, which basically means that each matzah is like 30 plus, a little bit, around 30 grams, right? 30 grams. 33 grams, something like that, right? So, how much? That's in weight. Now, we explained yesterday the weight of each item in the world is different. It's not like water where we have, 30 grams of water is 30 milliliters. How much is matzah? Now, this matzah over here, which when I brought it from home, it was still whole, right? On the way here, it broke a little bit. This is standard matzah. Let's say that this is, because I still have all the crumbs in here. So this was a standard matzah, and 35. Weighs 35. What?
It's heavy. To the bag.
With the bag, I don't know how much the bag weighs.
So it should be like 31 and a bit.
Something like that. It's standard. You can't, each matzah is a little bit different. But, okay, but just for this matzah, it's like 34 grams, right? Now, we want to know, this is where everybody should, you're going to have to do this, right? You're going to have to do this with your hand matzah. Because the machine matzah is basically set. It doesn't change much. But hand matzah, there are companies, like I just picked up my matzahs last night, a very special company, they charge accordingly, right? They make 20 or 22 matzahs in a kilo of hand, which means that each matzah is very thin. It's bigger, much bigger than a machine matzah. We know that they're bigger, where usually the diameter of a hand matzah is something like 30 centimeters. So, in order to figure it out, you would really want, it's very simple. Volume is, you measure, right? This matzah is 15, let's say 20 centimeters long, right? 20 centimeters. So if we want, now what is the thickness? The thickness is very difficult to really know. But if we look at it carefully, this one is probably 1 millimeter, right? They're all maybe a little bit more than a millimeter. Depends exactly. It's somewhere between 1 and 2 millimeters. Depends exactly how you measure it. So even if I'm going to say it's 1 millimeter. So I basically need 20, right? I need to get to, I want to get to the Chumrah, 17. I want to get to 17. We'll talk about if we want to do a little bit more, but just let's say I want to get to 17. So I basically need to get to, since it's only 1 millimeter, so I need to get to 220 times 10, right? 20 times 10 is 200, and a tenth of that is 20, so a little bit less, right? So, like this is here, this would be something like maximum, this would be like 20, since it's 20 times 10, it's basically like a half the matzah, something like that. Or, no, it's more than half, right? It's more like 2/3 of the matzah, right? This matzah is, again, 15 this way, it's, I don't know, 17, what did we say, 17 by 17, right? Yeah, it's 17 centimeters. So if I'll have here 20 times 10, so I don't need 20 times 10, I really need 7, right? 20 times 7 is already, what did I say? Not 20. How much is this? What did we say? 17. Right? 17 times 10 is already 170. So if I'll do here 10, so I already have 170, and a tenth of that would be 17. This would be a shiur of a kazayis l'chumra. The standard hand matzah, we can't say standard, but the average, we'd say, somewhere between 65 and 85. What?
17, no?
Yeah.
17.
CC.
Yeah, times 1, so it's 8.1. It's not 1, it's 0.1. Millimeter, it's not a centimeter thick, it's a millimeter thick. Oh, it's 100
Right, yeah. So, yeah, this one is, it's very difficult to measure it. I'm saying it's, l'chumra, it's 1 millimeter. That's, so, but the standard hand matzah is, I can't say standard because, as I said, the thicknesses are different, but they're usually between 65 and 85 grams, right? Again, it depends. If you have 20, just for argument's sake, if you have 20 in a kilo, you count your matzahs. It's very hard because nobody gets 20 shleimim. They're all broken. The majority of your matzahs that you get in your hand matzahs are broken. But if let's say you would have 20 in a kilo, that means each one weighs 50. Right? Each one's 50. So if you're like this company, which I have, it's like even it gets in 20 or 22, it could be even maybe a drop less than 50 cc, than 50 grams. The standard companies do more like 16. So if it's like 16, you can take out your calculators and so if it's 16 in a kilo, so then how much is it each one?
62.
62. Okay, so we said before. The standard one weighs 62. Now, it's very difficult to start measuring, right? Like we said, it's very hard to just sit there, especially on the night of Pesach. When you're allowed to do it, you're allowed to measure. As long as you're not using any digital scales or anything, you're allowed to really do measurements, even though you're not allowed to really measure anything on Shabbos or Yom Tif, but you're allowed to measure l'tzorech mitzvah. So if you would have a non-digital scale, you could take theoretically your matzah and put it on the scale. But we know that the weight is not the deciding factor. The real way of measuring would be volume, but that's very hard to do, and it's very hard to figure out exactly what the thickness of your matzah is. So therefore, we work it a little bit different, and we could tell you that the maximum that the ratio of the volume to the weight is 2-to-1. In other words, if I have 10 grams of matzah, I have 20 volume. Why? It's very simple, because weight, as we said, water is very heavy, and this, especially machine matzah rises, which makes it that it's rising, and therefore it doesn't weigh so much. So like this piece of matzah, which we were just talking about, it weighs 20, right? Weighs 20. It weighs 20, and again, if we said we have here, something like it's usually around 50 cc. 50. In other words, if you have 10 grams, you usually have maybe a drop less, but you have for 10 grams of weight, you usually have around 20 of volume in the hand and the machine. So if you want to be machmir, again, if you want to do the big shiur of 45 or 50, gesundheit. But there are two things. First of all, you can't eat that much b'chdei achilas pras. It's just not possible. I mean, if you sit there with grinding your teeth and everything the whole time. What?
9 minutes.
9 minutes we don't do. 9 minutes is only a chumrah that we do for Yom Kippur. The real shiurim, everybody says, is 4 to 6. That's the standard poskim hold. Somewhere between 4 and 6 minutes.
Isn't that meaning really that it's not the
That also shows you that's obviously it's not. No, but you could obviously say, who told us to make these hard crackers? Like the Sfardim have soft matzahs, and that what?
They're actually harder to eat.
More than that, the other ones, the volume is just bigger. If it's puffed up, obviously the volume is bigger.
If what's puffed up?
If you have the Sephardi pitas,
No,
the volume is much
it's not.
bigger.
It's no, it's not. Ad kedei kach, the Rav. I never did the test because I don't use the soft matzahs.
I've eaten it before, after Pesach.
Okay, but over there, the weight and the volume are basically the same. It's not like these matzahs. These matzahs, the weight is half of the volume, right? The weight is half the volume, right? So if you have 10, that means you have 20 cc.
Can't you just grind up one and
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do, right? And now the question is, how much do you want to?
how small does that have to be?
Yeah.
Put it in a blender.
Well, obviously, people do that, have done it, and that's when I say that they came out to the shiur of 50. That's with breaking it up in a blender, right? What? What do you want to talk about 50? If you want to do the biggest shiur possible, that's 50 cc, but not 50 grams, right? What?
25 grams or
It would be 25, right? Like this matzah, which, this we said was the standard one, of which it's one of 32, which, we waited to how much, when we waited it was how much? It was 35. But that was like 30, right? So this one, which was, just to get an idea, this matzah, which was 32, 33, right? Okay, we have to, that for sure we have an ear space on the bottom. Over here, we want to crack that a little bit, right? But you already see we're getting, if we don't really crush it down, don't forget this cup is 180. So I took something that was 33, let's say, right?
I just know you have to press it down to the
So you don't really have to make it, because it's really the volume of the way it is. And when you're making it into what basically kemach matzah, that's what they're doing. When they're saying that it's half, that's when you're making into, how do you call it, kemach matzah? What? Matzah meal, right? You're making it into matzah meal. They really make it into right, and then of course it takes up less volume. What? Yeah, okay, I'm crushing it now. But you guys just get an idea.
We were really fun. His the whole sefer. He coated it with something.
Okay, that's
Water, and then he could just do displacement.
right. That's the way he did it, right? But but you're already seeing.
He knows based on how much coating went in. It's very fun there. That's the Kazai's book.
Right? So you already see, right? This was 33. So let's say even if it's 2/3, this is 180, it's 120. So you can, and when we're saying it that it's half, in other words, for 10 you get 20, that's also a chumrah, because you want to take out you're basically taking out all the ear spaces, which the natural ear spaces really count. As long as it's not big, we're not talking about what's puffed up in the matzah, but the standard size of a matzah, whatever it is naturally, without taking out the ear space, is really what the shiur is. So again, even when we're saying that it's half, that's also a little bit of a chumrah, because it says we have to grind it up to become matzah meal. We don't have to grind it up to become matzah meal. So definitely, if you have 10 grams, you definitely have 20. You can definitely rely that you have 20 cc. So you'll take your matzah before Pesach, Erev Pesach. You'll take your matzah, you weigh it, and whatever it is, you'll get an idea. Let's say your matzah weighs 80, right? So you know that a quarter of that is 20. And that's good for 2 kezesim, right? If you want to be machmir, even to say that maybe it's 25, it's a half of what the shiur is 25. You don't want to be makel, you want to be really machmir. You want to be machmir to say it's half of the egg, like the Mishnah Berurah, it's half of an egg with the shell. So it's 25, a little bit more. So you're going to need maximum, like we said, a quarter of the hand matzah, a little bit more if you want to be machmir, the bigger shiur of the Mishnah Berurah, and to say it's a half of an egg with the shell, then it's 25, a little bit more. So but it's going to be not more than a quarter of a matzah when you're talking about a matzah that's 80, right? If it weighs 80, so it's not going to be more than for two kazesim, right?
No, that's for one.
I thought there was, the Mishnah verse is 50.
If it's 50,
No, if it's 80, if it weighs 80,
so it's
a quarter is 20.
We're assuming that if it weighs 80, its volume is 160.
Exactly.
And then we only need 40.
If you want to do two kazesim, but you don't do now. Again,
Do two ones.
now, even though the Shulchan Aruch, as we said before, said that you should be having a kazayis from the matzah and a kazayis from the moitzi, right? From the lechem oini. But all of these chumras that you want to do is basically when you're talking about deoraisa. You're talking about deoraisa, you want to be machar to make sure you get a kazayis deoraisa. But when you're talking about the idea of getting in a kazayis from the top matzah and a kazayis from the bottom one, you don't have to do it. There's no reason why you have to be machmir like on a deoraisa. There's no deoraisa that you have to eat the kazayis from the top one and the kazayis from the middle one. So if you ate a kazayis shel zmanenu from the top one, you're fine. To get in that idea that you're having a kazayis from the moitzi, and you're going to have your kazayis from the lechem oini, or vice versa, you're fine, because for the rice, as long as you had what the idea is, when you just made the bracha of amoitzi lechem min haaretz, and you made ashikid shalom mitzvahs v'alachilas matzah, if you had a kazayis sach hakoil between whatever you ate, so you're also good. You don't have to, even if you want to be machmir, let's say the shiur of the Mishnah, the bigger shiur of the Mishnah Berurah, which would be 25 cc. But that doesn't mean for this idea of a kazayis from each one that you have to have 25, have even kazayis shel zmanenu from either one of them. And together you'll be having the 25 cc, you're still okay. You only want to be machmir when it comes to deoraisa. Or the same thing when you're talking about, if you want to be machmir, maybe the afikoimin is the din deoraisa. Fine. So you'll be machmir to have a kazayis from the afikoimin. But you don't have to do a double, even though the Mishnah Berurah says you should be machmir to have a double shiur, but obviously not a double of the bigger shiur. And it's enough to, since we already said even the Chazon Ish, well, that all the shiurim got smaller, is saying that me'ikar din you could do kazayis shel zmanenu. So even though we want to be machmir, we don't have to do a double zayis of the 25. You can definitely do a kazayis shel zmanenu, and that will definitely be enough. When it comes to morar, definitely is all the rabbanon. Everybody agrees. Morar bizman hazeh is only the rabbanon. You can definitely do. There's no reason to be machmir, even the 22. And when I say 22 cc, because I'm saying it, let's say you'll say you'd only take off a tenth for the shells when it's 22, right? If you want to be machmir, you don't have to be machmir more than 17. And again, when it comes to people that can't swallow so much, you can definitely tell them 8 cc, 10 is 8 cc is also plenty, because me'ikar din it's even 5 cc is already enough a kazayis shel zmanenu.
Moral, the volume ratio to weight is also 2 to 1?
On what?
Moral.
No. Because again, moral is very difficult because there are two parts to the lettuce. There's the middle part and the middle part is the leaf has very little volume to it. It's very, very thin. And the other part is much thicker, but its weight is not as heavy as water, but it's not double. It's not double. But it's very hard over there just to take any piece of maror and put it on the scale, because the volume of the middle part is different than the volume of the leaf. So over there, over there it's not very difficult, much easier to swallow than matzah.
If you're using lettuce.
Correct, right?
Using horseradishes.
So definitely you don't have to be machmir more than 17, because that was, that's already, because even the Mishnah Berurah, who was machmir to say you should have a half of an egg, was only on deoraisa. On the Rabbanan, he said, anyways you could be makel like the other side, that it's a third of an egg. It's a third of an egg, it's anyway 17. So anyway you cut it, 17 is for sure enough, because forgetting about all the Rishonim that we spoke about that said that there may be 9 kisesim an egg, or 4, or all those other big shiurim that we said, smaller shiurim that we said. So you don't want to be machmir to say that it's relevant to the egg, either a half or a third of the egg, not like those Rishonim who said that it's maybe 9 kisesim in an egg, or minimum of 4. But when it comes to the Rabbanon, even if you're going to say that it is relevant to an egg, it's definitely enough just to take a third of an egg, which is 17. But me'ikar adin, again, for people who it's difficult for them to eat for whatever reason, people that don't have teeth, it becomes very difficult for them to swallow anything. You don't have to give them the bigger shiurim, definitely called b'shas atchak, and b'shas atchak definitely you can be soymich on the ikar hadin.
I'm sorry, so how do we measure the 17? That was my question.
We put 17 grams on the scale of maror, and it's not very difficult, very easy to get to.
Do 1 to 1 then?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 1 to the ratio.
Here, it's the volume is much more. The 10 is a minimum of volume of 20. And as we showed you, it could even be much more theoretically. It depends exactly how you're going to measure it.
Lettuce is almost all water.
What?
Lettuce is almost all water. So it should be
Pretty close. That's what they're saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The lettuce you're going to be measuring the same. I didn't never measure the real chrein, the real what the.
That's easy to
Yeah, we put it into
you
a
just
cup.
put it inside a cup.
Press it into a cup.
You grate it and then you just put it inside a cup.
Okay, yeah, but I never measured to see what the weight is in regards to the volume. I never tried it.
It's just something that you can weigh, that you could measure. It's not something that's,
Okay. So basically, again, so you'll go. You have all these people that are sitting there, chewing away for 25 minutes trying to eat the kazayis. Again, as we showed you, the kazayis me'ikar adin is much smaller, and even if you want to be machmir, you only want to be machmir klapi the deoraisa, not klapi the rabbanon, and don't try to eat what people were doing. Unfortunately, before we, explained these ideas, they were making a mistake, and still there are even rabbis who tell you that you have to have 45 grams of matzah or 25 grams of matzah, which is not right. And even if you want to have the 2 kazesim, what the poskim was saying to be machmir, you don't have to do the 2 kazesim of the chumrah. You can do 2 kazesim of definitely, basically have 1 kazayis. When you have 1 kazayis, you definitely have the kazayis of zmanenu plus the other kazayis. What?
Like half.
You don't need
the
the.
bigger share, and then
You already have, because since for klapi the drabonon you could be makel on kazayis shel zmanenu, if it's difficult, which it is difficult, very difficult to do. For a lot of people, they can't do it, especially people without teeth, right? And then we have to. It's better that we should tell them a smaller shiur than to tell them to wet it or these type of things, which makes big halachic problems once they wet it and everything else.
I'm saying shel zmanenu plus the chuvas hagainu, which is how it looks. I'm saying it's a piece of matzah, like yay big, not much more, no?
Of course, 5 cc is nothing, right? We're saying Gzai Manenu is 5, maximum 8 cc. So 8 cc is a 20th of a matzah, of a hand matzah, a 20th, right? So if you want to know what a 20 is, it's take in half, take a quarter, and take a fifth of a quarter. A fifth of a quarter is a 20th of a matzah. That would be Gzai Manenu.
You're saying you measure it below Lugmov is 30, right? 30 something below Lugmov?
37, let's say.
Just chew it and see how much you feel.
It's very difficult. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
The only problem is yours is not like mine, it's not like his.
All right, so that's basically the idea, the basic stuff of what kazayis is, halacha l'maisa, and again, as we were just in the middle of saying, is that you're going to be seeing that there are people that are saying, well, you have to have 5 kazaysim, because what they're telling you have to have 2 kazaysim for the first one, 2 kazaysim for the last one. That's all an exaggeration. You don't need that. For the idea of the Rabbanon, you could definitely be Samech K'zai Shel Zmanenu. You don't have to do even the 17 cc, and definitely not the 22. As long as you have the 22 maximum, or 25 if you want to be the biggest machmir possible. Because again, the Chazon Ish himself wrote that it's K'zai Shel Zmanenu. Because of Pidyon Haben, that's what got him to say that it's also K'zai Shel Zmanenu. He was talking about Sa'ira, and he was saying it's Sa'ira Shel Zmanenu. And therefore that's what brought him to say that K'zai is also K'zai Shel Zmanenu. That's what forced him into the corner.
Reverse of wine, you should machmir for the rice or the Chazon Ish?
Again, if it's the raisa.
It's not the only Friday night, and even Friday night it's not the raisa. No. 4 cups of wine is the Rabbanan.
First place, Friday night, is the raisa.
It's not the Oraisa. It's not the Oraisa. The Mishnah Berurah says you should be machmir with a bigger shiur when you're making Kiddush, because it's ikaroi de Oraisa. It's not the Oraisa. We paskin, there's only one shita in Toisis, in Nazir Daf Dalid, that holds Kiddush on wine is the Oraisa. We paskin Kiddush on wine is the Rabbanan.
Is all the cups in the Seder night are all the Rabbanan? So all
Everything is the Rabbanan.
they only need.
You only need the smaller shiur. You don't have to do the bigger shiur. Even the Mishnah Berurah said you only have to be, and as we spoke about in the daily Shiurim, everybody knows that the cup of the Chafetz Chaim was the smaller shiur. He says to be machmir, to have for Friday night a bigger shiur. Good question. He himself didn't do it. We have the cup of the Chafetz Chaim, the one that you made Kiddush on, and it's the smaller shiur.
And also that you don't have to drink the whole thing.
You only have to. Lichatchila, the Lashon, is always Lichatchila kuloi or revius. Lashon, you should be having when you're drinking the 4 cups, is Lichatchila kuloi, B'diavad ruboy. What's called B'diavad? B'diavad is if it's going to be making you dizzy and you won't be able to function, won't be able to Mekayim Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim in the proper way. That already makes it B'diavad. You only have to have Roiv Revius. And again, as we said in the daily Shiurim, even though there is a Shita of the Ran that you have to have majority of the cup, that's the Chumrah. Meikar Adin, you only have to have Roiv Revius. So again, if you can, have Roiv of the cup. What you should really be doing is having a smaller cup. Then you'll be able to have Roiv Kois, and you don't have to have. If you have a cup that's 200 and you have to be machmir the sheet of the Ran, that means you have to have at least 100 cc. So if you have a smaller cup, 75, you can be mekayim the shita of the Ran, which is Roiv Revius, and maybe even you have a smaller cup, you'll be able to eat, maybe even be able to do the lechatchila of kuloi of 75.
What's better, smaller cooler or lower percentage alcohol? And you could also avoid the b'diavad by having a smaller percentage alcohol.
Definitely has smaller percentage alcohol.
Yeah, but then you get into Mavushal and.
It's anything with Mavushal. You have Moshe and Rav Elyashiv who seem to have some kind of shita about cheirus and being alcohol.
Okay, but I don't say you have to have alcohol, but it doesn't say there's a shiur of alcohol.
With the Yashivs go to 6%, something like that. Which is not much. It's a very low.
Yeah, the lowest thing that I've ever seen on the market is 5 or 6. I don't think they make
They sell low alcohol wine, 3%.
3%. I never saw it. I never saw.
No, they sell 3%.
They sell 3%.
They sell 3%. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
They
I never saw it. Anyways, that's the idea of the Olu Shiurim. V'yoichlu anovim v'yizbo.